Hello and welcome to Real Watchers Movie Club. My name is Garrett.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are your hosts. Movie Club is a show where we pick a movie and discuss it every week, just like a book club. On today's show, we're covering the Russian sci-fi drama Stalker. Our thoughts and more coming up on Movie Club. Released in 1979, Stalker was directed by Andrei Tarkovsky and stars Alexander Kaydanovsky, Anatoly Solotsyn, and Nikolai Grenko. Sorry for any mispronunciation of those names. Near a gray and unnamed city is the Zone, a place guarded by barbed wire and soldiers, and where the normal laws of physics are victim to frequent anomalies. A stalker guides two men into the Zone, specifically to an area in which deep-seated desires are granted. It has a 4.4 out of 5 on Letterboxd and is ranked number 44 on its top 250. Before we dive into our thoughts, though, we do want to issue a spoiler warning for Stalker. We're going to be talking about everything that happens in this movie, so if you haven't seen it before and you're interested in watching it, make sure you check it out before we spoil it for you, because this is a movie that if there's nothing else we can say, I think we can both agree, watch this on your own first to get your own interpretation of it without hearing what we have to say. This is a movie that's very dependent on what you think of it coming out of it. So, yeah, very important. But stay tuned to the end of the show to find out what we're covering next week, because it's going to be a little bit easier to watch without subtitles. Alrighty, Kevin. So we are here with Stalker this week. And Correct. This is a movie that I have been beyond excited to watch since we started this. Purely because it is one of those movies that literally every cinephile, any movie buff who's, I've talked to, who's beyond just your average movie fan. These are the ones who actually actively engage and watch movies. Every single one of them says this movie is at the minimum, you have to watch it. You may not like it, but you have to watch it. And so obviously for years I've just been thinking about this, and this is based on a book. Let me go ahead and I want to double check and get the name right. It's I forget the name of the actual book. It's I should have had this ready to go. But this is based on a Russian novel that came out around the same time. That is actually, the book is the same book that inspired the Stalker video game series. So if you've heard of those games, it is inspired by the same book, which I am not actually seeing the name of in here, which is really annoying because I was hoping to get that out there. So I was excited to cover this movie, and after watching it, I can see why people say it's something you have to watch, because this is one of those rare experiences, like I said, where everyone is going to have a different reaction to this movie and a different thing that they walked out of it with. I can that on the second time I watch this movie, which will probably be soon, I might not like it as much. And then, but it might also be just because of my state of mind. Maybe I see it differently. And then the third time I watch it, maybe it'll be another high score or whatever. So I think that's what's really fascinating about this movie before we dive into any kind of what we feel. And I hope you picked up on that too. It's very...
It's very gray. I don't want to say it's very...
not color-wise, but...
No. But it's very bland. You decide what you get out of it. It's not pushing you a certain way like some movies do. This one's we're going to give you this story. How do you feel afterwards about if we just don't tell you anything about it, but just you're basically walking with them to the zone and to the room, and you're experiencing it as well. So at the end of the movie, tell me how you feel, and you'll have a 10 question questionnaire that you have to fill out.
Andrei Tarkovsky comes back from the dead, haunts you in your room, and is like, "What did you think? What do you think happens?" He probably would never do that, but let's go ahead and talk about how we feel about this movie. So again, spoiler warnings for the film. What I'm really interested to hear about first is what you walked out of this movie thinking it was about.
I thought So you have the professor, the writer, and the stalker that all go into it. What I got out of this is just believe in yourself or trust yourself. You don't need a room to kind of manipulate yourself, because you don't know what's going to happen in the room afterwards to get the fame, or to get maybe to do right better, or to be a Nobel Prize or something for like the scientist. But you go throughout this whole journey, but it's not the destination at the end, it's the journey that to get to the destination that you kind of find themselves. And that's what I really got from it, because the stalker can't go in the room because he's not allowed to. And then these guys can go in the room but choose not to when they get there, because they're like, wait, I don't think I need
They have their
this.
reasons.
Yes, exactly. So that's
Yeah.
what I got from it.
Because you have the writer who's like, I have, I don't want it to taint my inspiration, kind of a thing. And then the professor wants to destroy it,
To blow it up. Yep.
because if it falls in the hands of powerful men, they'll use it for bad reasons. They do, I would say, and this is very spoilery, they do tease the fact that the stalker has gone through it.
Yeah, because he talks
end.
about it, and at the very end as well.
Yeah, with his daughter, which is very interesting to watch.
Yeah.
And it's cool that you think that, again, like, it's such a different thing that I came out of it with than what you did.
It's just different. That's what's great about it.
There are two main kind of things that people come out of this movie with. One of them is a lot of people see this as a religious allegory. And I've heard it argued as an argument for faith in a time where faith is disappearing, specifically during the Cold War and all that, because this came out in '79. But the other one is, obviously, there is some latent anger that Tarkovsky has at the Russian government. And there is some kind of resentment there. Obviously, the unnamed city that they're in kind of just feels like a normal Russian city at some points back in that time. But for me, what I walked out of this with is the entire thing is not so much about faith, but on a different coin to that, it's about hope. And the room itself is resemblant, of hope, like humanity's collective hope, the hope in a better future, the hope in a better tomorrow, whatever it may be, and the different reactions that we have to hope. Obviously, there are those of us who want to build that hope in other people, and they want to bring people up and make them think, oh, tomorrow's going to be better, don't worry. And that's the stalker. If you're looking at this through the religious thing, then he is the prophet, he's the cult leader or whatever, right? The writer is kind of more the realist. Yes, we have hope, but I don't want it to break my heart. I don't want to have false hope. Which is a very real thing as well. Like, if you've gone through a lot of like job searching, or you're struggling in the dating department, right? Like, anything that can give you false hope can really crush you. And so that makes a lot of sense. And then the professor, I would say, is like the hope gone wrong, right? Like, yeah, you can hope that tomorrow gets better, but the evil people are also going to hope for tomorrow, and how that hope can be twisted and manipulated, and wants to prevent that from happening, and almost prevent others from having hope. Maybe seeing that the situation they're in is hopeless. And ending the kind of the false hope as well. Another coin of the writer, or side of the coin of the writer. So that's what I walked out of it with on the first viewing. And there, like we said, there is this idea that the stalker has already gone in the room and has experienced it, and that's why his daughter at the end has this telekinetic power or whatever. It also could just be mutations due to, it could be a nuclear apocalypse, it could be anything, right? It could, like, this zone does not follow the laws of physics, and we see that throughout the entire movie. It's a very hallucinatory kind of experience, which I think we'll get to it later, but Tarkovsky nails the kind of hallucinatory kind of tone of it. But like, it's also like the stalker at the end of the movie is not like, he's upset, because it's kind of like the death of Hope in a way, but then doesn't even notice that Hope thrives in his daughter. And so it's really a fascinating movie, especially coming from a Russian filmmaker during the Cold War.
Mhm.
And so it's fascinating on that regard. But let's kind of change gears though, because I mean, obviously we've talked about what we think of it, but what we came out of it with, excuse me. But like, what are our opinions of the actual movie itself? I don't know if you have anything you want to kind of start with here.
I just want to start with a negative because I want to end it on the positives of what you said. So my negative point, it is pretty slowly paced. Not a lot of stuff happens. When I was thinking of a sci-fi movie, I was thinking of Blade Runner or something like that. And I was like, okay, they're gonna get to this room and it's gonna be spectacular. But I like how it wasn't spectacular at the end because my hopes got up. I'm like, oh, they're there. Oh, it looks shitty. Like it's just run down. But it's like, okay, that's not the point of the movie though. The point of the movie is, again, I'm going to use your Hope reference. The Hope's in there. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It's still there.
Yeah.
But it does take a little bit to start going. Once you start going on the trip and once you start to actually get to know the characters a little bit more, especially the stalker, you start to feel for them a lot more as well. And that's when the adventure starts, is when they push the minecart and they go into beautiful, it's what is it, yellow and black or gold and black that they use for the outer world is what they call it.
It's like a yellowish orange.
Yeah. And but then it goes straight to like just beautiful color. It's so discreet between the two, which I absolutely loved. But they're going through the mine carts. They're starting the mine carts without trying to get caught, which you're like, oh, okay, this is like kind of the adventure side of it. And then you're just on the adventure as you're going to the room, and then you get to the room and you understand what's going on. And I like that aspect of it. Do I wish there was a little bit more sci-fi things, like not mutilated creatures, like different looking creatures in the forest and stuff? Yes, but again, it's not that type of movie, so I understand.
It's much more of a personal, introspective look into each person, because obviously we hear a lot of monologues from each person. And I think that maybe is kind of where maybe some of the misunderstanding in terms of what it was going to be, because it is science fiction, like it like in definition, right? I would say it's much more of a like post-apocalyptic drama. Well, it never even really says that it's post-apocalyptic, but you kind of infer that it is, because I mean we know the Stalker video games, and those are post-apocalyptic, and it's the same book that it's based off of. Which now I'm going to look up. Roadside Picnic. Sorry, that's the name of the book, which I will most definitely be reading, because I really want to see what this is based off of. But I can see what you're saying with the pace, though, and I think that like I came into this knowing what the pace was going to be, and it's a 2 hour and 44-minute movie in Russian, and it's mostly talking, and then walking around, right? And so I kind of understood what I was getting into. Not saying that's why you're looking at the film bad or anything.
No.
Putting your point of view down, but like at least I kind of had an understanding of what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that I was able to prepare myself and just be like, okay, this is what we're going to be watching. This is the kind of movie that I'm in for. And I think that allowed me to get enveloped in this movie. I think that Stalker is flawless in the idea that it brings you into the world.
Yeah.
Like every single shot of this movie is perfect.
You noticed all the one takes in this movie too,
yes.
Right?
Like there's like 10-minute one takes where it will just like when they leave the city and they're like on the track still when they get into the zone area.
Yeah.
And it's just pushing in slowly. And it's all in one shot. The beginning of the movie is all in one shot. Is like there's so many. But like just the tracking shot over the river, or like following them when they're going past that waterfall area.
Yep.
The design of that room with all the sand mounds, the iconic shot.
Oh, so good.
Fucking perfect. I'm sorry for cursing, but it's so like there's a reason why this movie is so highly regarded on the British Film Institute's Sight and Sound list. That some of the best directors of all time have listed this as one of the best movies ever made. And the critics also have it as one of the best movies ever made. Like it is very high on like professionals in the industry's lists. And because like literally, if you ever watch Letterboxd's 4 Favorites video series, I feel like you see a Tarkovsky movie in every other video.
Oh,
like
really?
He is that influential for people, which is so cool because he's a Russian filmmaker. I mean, obviously Bergman is also very influential, and he's from Sweden, I want to say, or like one of the Norwegian area countries. I could be wrong on that. I'm gonna get roasted. But like, you know, it's so you can see where directors get ideas from this movie. Visually and tonally. I don't think you could remake this. I mean, you obviously could.
They should not.
They definitely should not. If there's anyone who could remake it, it would probably be Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And I hate using him as the example every single time there's a really pretty movie because he's such a good visual director. But like, he's the only person that could do it. And if you did it today, they would probably throw in more mutant fights or like creatures, like you said, or
like
visual effects. And that's not the way to go. If anyone's going to do it, it should be A24 and Denis Villeneuve. Like, that's the only way you could make it work. And even then, they probably wouldn't do it because it's untouchable.
I don't think they should touch this movie. It doesn't need to be touched. So I'm like,
and I think taking it from its original Russian, which is the book and the movie, and putting it into English would ruin anything. It would ruin the feeling of it.
I feel I can see that because it was a little tough for me because I don't know a lot of Russian. So like when we watch what's it called? Freaking Ghibli studio movies. We watch Studio Ghibli movies and they're in Japanese, well, I watch some anime that's in Japanese and have subtitles, so I know like key words. But for Russian, I had to like actually like not actually. I read all the subtitles. Don't worry, but it's like I actually had to pay attention to what they were saying, and then I can get some cues and stuff like that. But I don't think I would have it dubbed because it's just it wouldn't give it that intenseness when it's not supposed to be intense, if that makes sense, because it's a very what would you say Russian sounds like? It's very like
it's a very harsh language. It's very not guttural. It's just very harsh. There's a lot of consonant sounds, a lot of N's and K's, and so you know, I it's definitely not the easiest language to sit there and listen to. It's a very hard language to learn as well. I remember I wanted to try learning it at one point, but it is I don't want to say it's a hard language to listen to because I mean that makes it sound bad.
No,
but
it's a difficult language.
Yeah, it's just not one you hear very often.
And that's another thing.
That's kind of a big thing. We here in America, we watch a lot of films in English. I would say we also watch a lot of films in Japanese. I would say, and we do hear enough Spanish in our at least where we live in California that like films that are from Mexico or Spain or Spanish speaking countries, we get those as well. But I think those are the top 3.
Yeah.
And so Russian is definitely not one. I think this is the first Russian movie I've seen. At least
I can say this is my first Russian movie.
Except for maybe a clip of the Russian Winnie the Pooh that was on the Jackbox party pack that we played at one point. But the did jog thing, like if they remade this movie, and when you were talking about it, they should do it animated.
That'd be very interesting.
Like I this is something I could see Miyazaki doing a story like this. It would be more fantastical and more cutesy in elements. Yeah. But I could see him doing it as well. Like I just had that jog loose, but like I think the pacing, like again, on first watching it didn't bug me as much. It could bug me on a second viewing. That's why I'm saying it could go lower on a second viewing, or whatever. But like I feel like I knew what I was getting into, and so I expected a slower burn. I expected something more intimate and personal, and I love getting movies like that from time to time. Not everything has to be an hour and a half, all slasher kills or whatever. Like it has to be, there have to be movies like this that are just as personal to us as they are to the director himself. Because like there's a lot of Tarkovsky and his struggle in this movie as well. Like that could be a whole other meaning of the movie. Instead of the room being hope, the room is art. Do I continue making art? Do I do I stop making art because people don't get it, or do I destroy my work and prevent other people from ruining it? Like there's so much you could go with this movie, and that's why it's endlessly fascinating to me.
Yeah, it is. It is very fascinating, and I like how you brought up like kind of the faith, or the I don't want to say faith, but like trustworthy in the stalker in this movie, because he's the only one that knows how to get there. So these two people are putting their blind faith into him, and sometimes they do get out of line a little bit, and the stalker's like, hey, don't mess this up because everybody's gonna die if one of you
just throws a metal pipe at them at one point.
I love that, because it's like, well, if he threw like a pebble or something, it would have been like, oh, that's funny. It was like it was a metal pipe. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that could have really hurt him.
Oh yeah. But it's it's a gorgeous film. It is incredibly deep, but I would say if you're not prepared for the kind of movie that it is, you're probably going to look at the tone a little bit, or the pacing, maybe a little bit unfavorably.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, as much as we could keep talking about this movie, you should watch it for yourself, regardless if you like it or not. You should watch it for yourself. It's one of those movies that, if you love it, you'll thank us later. If you don't like it, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. I'm just kidding. Don't take it. Like you can not like movies. It's fine. But I was the one that was looking forward to this, and I suggested this week, so I'll go ahead and go first with my review. I think that Stalker is one of those rare anomalies of a film that is just as personal as it is epic. It is a staggeringly beautiful film that everyone is going to walk out of it feeling something different, experiencing something different, and that is the sign of a truly great film. I'm plagiarizing this from someone, and I don't know who it is exactly, but when you can go back to a movie and see something new, or see it in a new way every single time, that is a truly great film. And so because of that, because of how much I truly enjoy and am fascinated by this movie, it is the latest addition to my 5-star film club. It is a 100 out of 100 for me. Very nice. And it's a movie that I will recommend to everyone, but I will warn them that they may not like.
Yes. Or it's slowly paced as well.
Yes.
I wish I was a little bit warned on that, but that's okay. That's okay. It did take away from my score. But I do believe that this is a beautifully shot movie with a lot of oneers that you can see, which I like when oneers that I'm like, okay, they're still going on this one. Oh, they're still rolling. So I like seeing that visually as a moviegoer. And then it's just so beautifully shot, and the characters you care for at the end. And I like the meaning of, we don't know what actually happens in that room because no one goes in there. It leaves your mind to infinite possibilities. So I did give it an 80 out of 100. So that's 4 stars out of 5 stars. It might go up, it might go down if we watch it again. But right now, just because of that pacing issue, it really got me down a little bit.
But that is going to be it for Stalker. So the question now falls to you. What do you think of Stalker? If you managed to check it out before this video, but you should have paused it and gone to check it out and not spoiled it for yourself. Go ahead and leave those comments down in the section down below, but be careful. Be nice to one another, because one of them could be a stalker and you may need to hire them in the future. But next week we'll be covering the World War I epic 1917. So make sure to watch it before next week so you're not spoiled. But again, thank you so much for watching. Of course, we have this video series that goes live every Friday at 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, just in time for your morning jog, commute, journey, whatever you want to call it. And of course, we have our live stream that goes live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we talk about movie news, reviews, and so much more. But that's it. Thank you so much for joining us again. And until next time, make sure to keep those eyes on the screen.